We're the All People's Health Collective, where organizers, advocates, and everyday people come together to demand care, housing, and freedom for all. APHC is fighting for care without control, housing without conditions, and dignity for every person.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the All People's Health Collective podcast. This is your host, Susan, and today I am joined by Todd Cunningham. Todd is with the LA Community Action Network, which is a very close friend of the All People's Health Collective. So we're super excited to have you on today, Todd. And we're just going to be talking about LACAN's work fighting for food justice and wellness and food sovereignty in Skid Row and South Central LA and beyond. So Todd, thanks so much for joining. And to start, can you just say a little bit about yourself and how you got into food justice and this line of work?
Sure thing. Thank you so much for inviting me and giving us an opportunity to talk about our work and the fight for food justice. My name again is Todd Cunningham. I'm the Los Angeles Community Action Network based in Skid Row, in the heart of Skid Row, which of course is the community with the most concentration of people who are experiencing homelessness and criminality and a number of other woes and things like that that are happening at the hands of our government. I am originally from Jefferson City, Tennessee, a small town of about 7,000 people, where it was somewhat rural, but it was city enough that like I had to get rid of my horse when I had a little pony when I was up to 6 years. At 6 years old, we had to get rid of it because it couldn't be in the city any longer. But it gives you an idea of what it's like. But basically, my parents both worked full time, early risers, had to be at work at 7 o'clock. My dad worked for the government for TVA, the largest public utility in the country. So I had a strong work ethic. We had dinner every night at 5 p.m. We had a garden, a big garden out back. That it honestly, growing up, I really hated doing it because it was like I wanted to be inside watching TV and in the air conditioning. Um, Played baseball, Boy Scouts, in the band, all those kind of things. Grew up with a pretty wholesome background. Um, but what I didn't realize was just how fundamental that was in shaping the way that I kind of work that I would do. Um, it was, they taught me a lot about the gardening work in particular, taught me a lot around the appreciation for food and how you must share it. It's like when you grow a garden, it's just all about abundance. There's more than you can ever eat there. And so we would constantly be taking bags of beans and potatoes and corn and things like that to people at church and people, other relatives and other people in the community who may not have as much. There was a lot of trading back and forth with other families who had gardens as well. Um, but that gave me a good sense of what people need and how that gets expressed. And the kind of work that I did before here, coming here, was in media and consulting, and but always in a role where I was representing the consumer. Where actually it was a place I found myself in places where the leader of the organizations always were committed to the end people that we were coming to work for, and that helped me to kind of take advantage of the sensitivities that I had about people and making sure that I was not caught up in politics and things like that. And so I found my way to LACAN as well, which of course I started volunteering here. And immediately I found that who is now is my boss, he was our founder and executive director, Pete White, was clearly dedicated to the people who we're there for. And it's our community, and the community is involved in everything that we do. Um, I'm working as the food and wellness organizer here at LACAN. And it's been great. It's really, my job it's a gift. It's a gift that I so appreciate and am grateful for because I get to work with people every day who are like so dynamic and exciting and have needs that where there's a clear line of path where the answer should be. So it's exciting.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that background. It's just really wonderful to hear a little bit about your kind of experience with gardening and how that's been part of your political journey as well. Because like you said, like food is something that everyone needs, everyone can kind of connect with. Gardening itself, I feel like, is such a collaborative activity. And yeah, I think there's just so much to learn here and unpack, and hopefully we will do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So just to start, and maybe ground the rest of our conversation, can you just say a little bit about what food justice means to you, and why is it important?
Sure, sure. Um, Food justice is one of these phrases that has gotten uh, interpreted by many different people. It's a moving target, I would say. It's in terms of how it's been defined. I even think back to the days when Martha Stewart was like really popular, and there were where it became like commoditized, and it became something that was an object, something that was branded, and it became, it was all about you must do things this way, serve them that way. Um, but it seems to find its way in being something about an us versus them or an insider outsider thing, where so if you have enough money, it's been a victim of capitalism ultimately. If you have enough money, then you can buy these products. It's like you even have, and it works in reverse, right? Where it's like the people you hear farm to table, pig snout to tail, where it's like, it's not talking about the eating everything. Everything is possible to be eaten, which has been the way of people who have been for poorer people who are lower income in this country and on rural farms and things like that have operated that way all the time. But of course, that got adopted by people who were really rich, and on the upper end, it became something that became expensive. So it's like, and now we've flipped back down to the bottom end of the rung, where in fact things that used to be cheap, right? I mean, it's like if you wanted cheap food, you could find it. It wasn't good for you, but now even that's become expensive. So I would say it's a moving target. It's just all about making sure that we all recognize that food is a human right, and we all deserve the food that we need. Um, but it is often weaponized, and it's often criminalized. The need to solve for hunger and make sure that people stay in their place, if you will. Um, so that's how I would define food justice.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like a lot of kind of what you've touched upon with how food has been weaponized or how it's used in an exclusionary way resonates a lot with some of the currents that we're seeing in like politics right now. I just before this call, we were talking about RFK Jr. and the movement to make America healthy again, and like beef
Right.
tallow and seed oils or whatever, which all of that has a kind of eugenicist adjacent, or maybe not even adjacent, framing. And then, I think a lot of the time, when people think about food and access to food, they're also thinking about, SNAP benefits, or they're thinking about like charity models, like, food banks. But LACAN seems to have a really different kind of model and struggle for food justice that's like you said, very deeply rooted in the South Central LA community. And so I'm interested in if you can say more about how you kind of think about your work in the context of this moment where PELP is like being claimed by the right in this very eugenicist and racist and classist way, while like benefits like SNAP are also under attack. And if you can just say more about like what's going on there.
Sure, sure. Food has always been political in this country, whether that be, if we think about it, every bite that we take of food it's been touched by someone who has decided who, where, how much that we will actually get to eat. And of course, being able to, what we see in Skid Row in particular is just a dearth of like places to find affordable, healthy food. And so with with respect to SNAP benefits currently right now, that is like the latest battle. And just to speak on the piece about Make America Healthy Again, we now are finding that the government's decided to get into the branding business. So it's like we want to brand this effort to keep people from getting the kind of foods that they deserve. There's many movements afoot to try to ban the use of the card that you get for SNAP to use to buy certain types of products. And of course, those right now are targeted as syrupy sodas and candies and things like that. But it's based on the ingredient list. It's not clear to everyone. So there's a lot of confusion, a lot of shell gaming going on that we find to be really challenging. And so at LA Can, we see this as an opportunity to make sure that we hear from the people with the lived experience, because that's the voice that's missing all the way through. We find it time and time again, no matter in the work that we do with people with trans rights, as well as women's issues, women's rights as well. It goes across the board. It's like there's just an active discipline, it feels like, to freeze out the voices of people with lived experience and to come up with programs that they think are like the right kinds of things. So SNAP, being the most effective program that we have in the U.S. to fight against hunger, is now being weaponized, and there is an effort to cut in this long. This is a really complex topic, but like in this long-standing effort from the Republican stuff in this administration to make tax cuts for all. Some of us may have gotten smaller tax cuts than others, but certainly for the rich, the goal is to cut government out, to make government smaller, and to have it like not focus on helping people as much. And this is, of course, traditional kind of thing. Republicans tend to be about smaller government, whereas the Democratic side are about having services and providing services for everyone to better our society. But it's become quite lethal right now, in fact, because so one example of that we saw was during the shutdown back in November of last year. The food benefits from SNAP were on the line, and that was one of the things that people were not going to be getting their benefits. And so California, along with 20 other states, put together a plan to actually fund what was missing to fill in the gap. And in fact, our president basically came back and said, no, you won't do it. When he got wind of it, he said, you can't do that. You're not going to do that. I'm not going to reimburse you for this, which would typically have been the case. It's a general understanding. You're not going to get reimbursed, and you won't participate in it going forward. Well, that's not, that was what that showed to us in our community. Was all of a sudden there was like a rift between the federal government and the state government. And so we have a new ally, is the way we look at it, because the state is actually looking for ways to actually be able to help our communities. And this is other states as well. So you had many states who were, saluting the flag and following in line with that. But for us, we found that we have a new group of people who previously were not really in the mix. There's a cost shift that's actually happening from the federal government to the states to move the states into covering now 75% of the administration cost for that. That, of course, is going to put the state in a much more influential position, a much more accessible position for us to try to affect change. But back to your question about how LACAN sees all of this work, it is something that we feel like that we can make a difference. We've made a differences before. We look at it through policy work that we do. We help make sure that we're off to Sacramento and DC, whether in person or virtual, in many instances throughout the year, to address food funding of food assistance programs, and making sure that in many different ways, not just with SNAP. LACAN was an organization that we founded the idea of using your EBT card at a farmer's market that didn't used to happen. We got that through here locally, and then it became something that now across the state, every farmer's market takes EBT cards, and a number of other things which we can talk about at some point. But we see it as we have a great influence on some people say getting your hands dirty in the political part. And then we also get our hands dirty in the physical dirt. We have a rooftop farm at LACAN. It's built for many years. We stand on the shoulders of many people, food justice leaders who've gone before us, and community who's gone before us, who've created this beautiful farm. We'd love for anyone to come and visit us, where we have now about 60 different crops that we're growing at any given moment. Turn those over every quarter at the equinox, growing everything from corn, okra, potatoes, collard greens, everything, including about 25 different culinary and medicinal herbs that we use for tinctures and teas, popsicles, salad dressings, really trying to work towards the practice of food as medicine. Because our ancestors did this for many years. It's a lost art, a lost practical activity that used to be around all the time, and we've lost that. And so we believe that we know it's important. It's a way of fighting back as an act of resistance against the high prices of food and the inability to know exactly where your food comes from. So that growing that food is really important, and we've taken that even further, and I can talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah, and it's really awesome to hear about this model that you have that's both challenging these like policy rollbacks or these fronts that are in the policy arena, whether that's like national or state, but then also building out alternative institutions that are like for community and actually getting people what they need. And I would love to just keep unpacking both of those pieces.
All right.
And the garden I've actually been to, and it's so beautiful. So everyone listening should definitely check it out.
Thank you. Thank you.
So cool. But yeah, back to the budget cuts that we were previously discussing. I'm wondering if you can talk about, in addition to those cuts, are there other sort of stipulations or conditions that the government is trying to impose on
Oh,
people who are
yes.
trying to get their food benefits?
Absolutely. So I'll talk about one. I'll start with the big one that happened last year in July, on July 4th. The president signed HR 1, which was known to many people as the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which basically addressed many safety net issues, but in particular, one of those was hardest hit was for food benefits, and that was SNAP. And of course, what came with it was a renewed a new energy and mandate for people who were receiving SNAP benefits who were what they call able-bodied adults without dependents. We call those affectionately AVODs, but basically these are people who are not disabled. So if you're disabled, you do not have this next requirement I'm going to talk about. But if you're able-bodied, there is a belief, this belief from the administration that there are a lot of freeloaders, that there are lots of people who are just getting benefits and not working, not trying to better themselves, and that just is not true. We find that in fact, the data shows that most people who can work are working if they can find the jobs. It's like the job market is changing quickly, as we all know. And in terms of upskilling, there's not a lot of places where people can upskill without high-speed internet. Of course, we see this all the time in the all the offerings for people to get themselves ready, make an app, create an app, build out your skills to be able to live in this AI-dominated world. It's evolving too. So, but there are new work requirements that have always been there, but states have been in the past been able to get a waiver for people who, specifically people who were fit in certain categories, to not have to work. And so our president basically took, and Congress approved the approval to rip those waivers away, and there are no more waivers. And so the only waiver that really exists is the disability. So the people that are most affected actually are very much in our community, very much populated in our community. These are people experiencing homelessness, veterans, people who have formerly been in the foster care system, people who have now the age goes up to 64. So it stopped at 54 before. Now 55 to 64-year-olds must work, and I'll tell you about how much they have to work in a second. And the other group are parents of kids who have children between 14 and 17. So if you are receiving benefits and you have a child who's 14 to 17, you now must work 20 hours a week, work or volunteer 20 hours a week or 80 hours a month in order to keep your benefits. And you have to do this for 3 months. If you don't, you get the benefit of 3 months. But if you don't work in that much time, you're banned for 3 years. It's a 36-month ban on you getting benefits. So these stipulations of the amount of work that you must do, the ability to find a job that fits your skill set is a stipulation, and there's no training connected with it. It's just like you must do this, and good luck to you. So of course, if you can imagine, if you're a person who's experiencing homelessness, in Los Angeles in particular, where we have these organized, what are called sweeps from the sanitation department and the police department, which were started in an effort to keep the streets clean, to keep them, before the pandemic happened. It's like basically that was the effort, but they criminalized that. It's like there's inconsistent awareness being for people living in communities to know when their sweeps are going to happen. They tell them they're going to happen on a specific day. People get ready, and then they don't show up. But in those sweeps is where the heart of the the harm and damage happens. There's fear, of course, because the police show up with it. That's not any, that doesn't feel very good. Of course, just anytime they're showing up, and then they show up in mass and with lots of cars and lots of official and showing up at different times, it can be disconcerting at best, at the least of it. But they go about it in such a violent way. They're taking people's belongings, everything they have. Sometimes they don't get a chance to even take to gather their products, their belongings to take with them. So, birth certificates are taken. Paperwork that has been done to actually get housing is thrown away. Food and water that has never been opened, that have been donated, where they're keep storing it at the place where they're staying, gone. Just everything, tent, sleeping bags, whatever it may be. That doesn't work. And so, if you're a person experiencing homelessness and you have to get a job, imagine how that could even happen. It's physically, and literally, almost impossible for it to happen. And then, in order to keep a job, of course, you need to be clean and wearing clothes every day, and all these types of things. And with limited showers and restrooms around, it's like the right hand's not talking to the left hand. There's no preparation for this that would allow people to realize I could do this. I could actually make a way and succeed with this. So then, of course, if they're not working and they're not looking for work or volunteering, they're banned. So it's an organized effort to create hunger, and some would call it political sabotage. So that's one way that's actually happening. A piece of legislation from that. California, if you remember the effort I talked about last year, that California was going to fill in the gap for what the government was not providing people in November. Our California legislature and 20 other states, but California in particular, has come up with, Assembly member Lisa Calderon has put forward a bill, AB 2299, which is meant to fill in the gap for the benefits for what they've estimated as 655,000 Californians who would actually lose their benefits. And the way they're able to get that number is interesting. Of course, there's lots of data for over the years for people in terms of them applying for benefits and recertifying for benefits midway through the year, and the snags that happen, the problems that they have, the challenges they have with calling in an 800 number, the challenges they have with being able to get high-speed access, all the many reasons. And so it's as if those reasons were taken into account when they came up with this program. So when they say you must have a job, well, that sets in motion a ton of things that's going to keep someone from getting a job, right? So and they've estimated about 655,000. So Assembly Member Calderon and other lawmakers realized, well, if we know this, we have a duty to do something about it. And so they have, there's a bill that's fast tracking through the system now. It's a political system. It's in the Appropriations Committee now, soon to go to the floor for a vote. Because all this starts on June 1st of this year. So there's a rush to get these benefits so that these 655,000 people do not go hungry. And the stipulations there are basically, and that comes with training, with employment training, and a way forward for people to actually see themselves into a job. But it's going to be rough. It's going to be rough for our communities in Skid Row, in South Central. It's going to be really tough for people all across the country. Some states have already started some of these kind of things, but it's not looking good.
And just to get the timeline, when you say this is all starting on June 1st, what are you referring to?
So the work requirements. The work requirements that come with this. So that there are other elements of this HR 1 bill which are about eventually getting to the place where you will be banned from using your EBT card or CalFresh card in stores for sodas and candies and things like that. But that's still being debated. That would start in 2027, and other elements as well. I will say that there's one other piece of legislation that I should definitely speak to that that is even worse than these, if you can imagine that being the case. That's activating the other parts of HR 1 which relate to the Farm Bill. The Farm Bill is a bill that lives with the USDA and the Department of Agriculture, which is supposed to be renewed every 5 years. we are still operating under the one from 2018 because in 2023, when it was up for to voting, it's like there was a presidential race going on, and so it's like the vote was put off until the next year because they wanted to wait until there was the administration in, because of course what we now know is there were plans to actually change the dynamic and the relationship that the federal government would have with people getting benefits. And so it came up for a vote last year. Both sides of the aisle put forward their proposals. There's an impasse, of course, because they're just this battle over hunger and the battle over who's in charge was alive and well. And there were other things that were going into place from this administration that we've now seen with Doge and the elimination of lots of jobs and programs and research. And then the ICE making its way into our communities. And the other things that we've all been focused on. Now they're ready to vote again. And what one piece that's really disheartening in all this is the plan to make SNAP cost neutral moving forward, meaning that it would go back to 2020. I believe it's the rate that people got awarded benefits at the year 2020. And so basically every year there's a cost of living increase that's built into SNAP to allow for people to be able to make sure they can afford food as little as it is. They want to go back to 2020 and they want to make that be the base for the next 10 years. So there would be no cost of living increase. And so, of course, prices are going to continue to go up. So the value of your benefits are going to go down constantly over these years. So it's yet another way to punish people, to make it difficult for people to actually be able to find and get food that they need. And that's not to say anything about nutritious food. It's like in their eyes, any food is good food, but we all know that that's not the case. And so at the local level, that's where efforts like what we're doing at LACAN, other food service providers across the county, city, county, and the state are working also to fill in those gaps.
And that bill that you just mentioned has not been passed yet, but there's an
No.
ongoing fight.
Yes, right. There's urgency around that one because it ties in with these other efforts that are happening, and it's tied to the tax benefits back to the rich, of course, for next year's taxes. So they're working quickly.
We need those. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, this is all incredibly painful and infuriating to hear.
Yeah. Yes.
And I really appreciate you kind of re-grounding us in just how this affects people on Skid Row and the people, the communities that you work with directly, especially because I imagine that these work requirements also interact a lot with other systems of punishment that a lot of people who are unhoused are, deeply impacted by, including, for example, the criminal justice system, the carceral system. Of course, we know that most people in that system are there because they're poor, and then they come out and it's incredibly difficult to find a job. Or, folks will have hunger cited as a reason for why their kids are taken away by CPS. And so it's just, really important to be thinking about, I think, how all of these things come together to just exacerbate and magnify punishment for people who are already struggling, and just kind of deepening, these crises.
Absolutely. I would say, we had just been beginning to make headway for the formerly incarcerated to be able to get SNAP and to be able to enjoy things to be able to have the rights that they are deserving once they come out of the criminal justice system. But all this gets called into question, of course, because it's in their eyes, it is all fitting together. It's all stitched together for all of our lives. We're the same people who experience these multiple facets of abuse and dismissal. It's a policy choice. We see hunger and many of these things as a man-made problem. They are man-made problems, and they have man-made solutions that can be addressed with them as well. But there is a refusal to do that. But work requirements is absolutely one of those that it's just being criminalized and weaponized against the people who are most affected. The next battle is going to be very interesting over the next couple of years. And interesting is not even the word I'd really prefer to use. So I'll strike that and just say that it's it's going to be a battle, and we need everyone to help us fight. And yeah, it's tough.
Absolutely. Um, and yeah, I mean, looking forward, where do you kind of see LACAN's fight going, and what are kind of the frontiers that you're working on, especially with AB 2299 also now in the works?
Yeah.
Obviously, that doesn't mean the fight is over, right?
No, not at all. We, by no means, because of course, what we have to think about is this, with the administration of this program coming to the state, it's still the government. The state is still the government. And so that is our perennial kind of foe or opponent in all of these kind of things, and trying to help them to understand what it is that needs to be right for the people who they represent. And so we continue our approach within the food world with Hunger Action Day, which is a day once a year where we actually go to Sacramento, and we just did this last week. We go and meet with legislators and talk about the kind of problems and challenges that are out there. There are a number of other bills that we also support. Food for all, making sure we're getting food for immigrants, for students, for there's a lot of groups which are affected by this, but in particular, with this bill, this is a 1 year program. AB 2299 is a 1 year fix. We need to make sure that it goes on forever, as long as there's an HR1 that's taking money away from people and denying people from getting benefits. We continue our fight for that. We also continue our fight against the $179 million that's been taken off of SNAP to be for tax cuts, or tax cuts for the rich. That needs to be replaced. That money needs to be replaced so that people are not suffering. That would help solve a lot. But that's just the bare minimum. That's where we've been, with people getting about $2 and in the mid $2 range, between $2 and $3 per meal per day in terms of benefits. That's not enough. I mean, with food prices the way they are now, and that was decided before food prices jacked as high as they are right now. That's a lot of where our focus is. We, on the more local front, with food, growing your own food effort, we have launched a new program that we're really excited about called Fresh Roots from the Row, where we take some of our most popular crops that we're growing and we take them out to the community so they can begin to learn to grow their own plants. So we give them seedlings in little 3-inch pots. They grow them, and in fact, they can upgrade their plant to a bigger pot. And we have soil from our composting efforts that we do, really rich soil, so they can continue to eat from it. We had several people who've upgraded multiple times. In fact, they've upgraded for one plant, but then they've now gone to like 5 plants where they're crops that they're growing and eating off of that and able to save that money. So we're growing that program as well, being more involved with helping people to understand how you can actually do this yourself. We have an event once a month, every other month, called our Food and Justice and Wellness Marketplace, where it's an opportunity for people to get $50 worth of free produce, but also to engage in organizing conversations and find out how to get involved and to organize and just get together and build power. We have a committee, our Food and Wellness Committee, that meets once a week, where there's plenty of work that's going to be happening, where we're challenging a number of different, just the whole dynamic of where you get food, how you get food, where you get food, and how you can consume it, and everything related to that. That's about to kick off as well. So we have a full plate. We welcome people to come join us.
Literally, yes, a full plate. Yeah, that's so awesome to hear. It's so cool to hear about everything that you are building out. And just to kind of see how you're actualizing this like theory, like mentality of like abundance is resistance, right? And like there is abundance, like there's enough, or we can create enough to go
Right.
around to feed
Exactly.
everyone, to take care of
That is the
everyone.
point. There is
Yes.
enough, and it's like, especially in a rich state like California, with the resources that we have, the soil that we have, the addiction and almost like worshiping of healthy living. It's like that in culture. It's like our culture is built that way. The rest of the country sees us in that kind of way as well. There's a commitment to being healthy here. But as we know, that's all veneer. We know that that's not the way it really is. But the resources are there for it, and it's just criminal that we believe that it's criminal that people are that decisions are made in such a way that are so harmful to one another.
Absolutely. Um, well, I think we've covered a lot here. Is there anything else that you want to make sure we touch on before kind of wrapping up with just how folks can get involved and, you know, participate and join the struggle?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think that just keep in mind that, like, when you see others, it's like, as we all know, you can't judge a book by its cover. That old phrase that we've heard for many years um, is true. It's like there are people who are dealing with the challenge of being able to eat and to eat healthfully uh, among all income strata. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. And so there are ways to help. I think it's like being able to stay in touch, be more politically minded, or involved in the conversation with our electeds, and keeping that in mind as we elect them, about just asking those good questions about, like, where do you stand on food justice? Where do you and it may seem like it's something that we never really thought about before, because, as I said, it's top food is political. Should I talk about how to get in touch with, how to stay involved with this? Is that
Yeah,
okay?
yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
cool,
And
cool.
yeah, with LACAN and also anything specifically about these bills and the timeline, if
Sure,
there's
sure.
anything
Let's start there. So AB 2299. Call your local assembly person and senator to say you're in support of AB 2299. You can find that online, looking up the how to find your assembly person in California, and you want to be sure to tell them that you're in support of 2299. That message alone will hold a lot of weight. And that's in the next 2 weeks, because there's going to be going to vote very soon. Um, Locally, with LACAN, it's like you can find us. Our website is cangres.org. That's CANGRESS.org. Follow us on our socials. On Instagram, it's LACAN Official, is our hook there. And then there's plenty going on there. You can come to our meetings at LACAN on every Wednesday at 11 a.m. We're at 838 East 6th Street in downtown Los Angeles. And we have a garden day also on Thursday mornings. We gather from 9 to 11 to be able to get our hands dirty, and we plant and harvest every week. So you're able to take things home with you. You're able to grow things that you maybe never had grown before, and learn what things like lamb's ear and other great crops that are out there that are used for great purposes, that we would save you lots of money at the grocery store, the drugstore as well. So we welcome you to stay involved with us. Go, 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 fight, fight, fight. Food is a human right. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Todd. You heard Todd. Get involved, show up, garden, call your assembly person in the next 2 weeks, ASAP. Thank you so much for this conversation. This is really rich,
Thank
and
you.
I just really appreciate hearing about all of the different fronts of work that you have going on and the amazing
Thank you.